I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jesse.
We're Cannabis School. Having cannabis-infused conversations
with everyday people,
cannabis companies,
celebrities,
and your mom.
Welcome to the Sesh.
I'm saying recent release over there, stuff that they've been talking about, the CIA studying the pyramids, studying the Göbekli Tepe not too long ago, all these different things that they're studying.
What was released in it? Like, what was the studying or what did they find?
No, just that they were even looking into it.
Doing it.
But the craziest thing was they brought up multiple declassified documents that came up about, what is it called? Amber says that she can do it, astral projection.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's been old. They came out with that like a while back about the CIA.
No, recently where they said that the CIA, and so whatever it is, but this sounds like just ridiculousness, but this is where they're at. They're saying that they found the Ark of the Covenant and that it's below ground at this certain area, and this CIA document goes through everything that they did to be able to locate this. They don't know exactly where, but they know that it's real. They were able to describe the box, everything around it, what was around it, and that it's underground, it's near water, and that they can hear voices. And I was just like, that's funny as shit, because I know a lot of these like guys, they made a whole movie about it. If you ever want to watch it, it's pretty funny. It's called Men Who Stare at Ghosts.
I was going to ask if that was the one.
Yeah. You remember that one?
I've not seen it, but
so funny.
My uncle who was in another state and said he was going to build an energy bubble to protect a community, he told me I should watch that movie.
Yeah. Well, dude, and it just goes to show, man, like, this is where I feel like one of the coolest things that I have learned from learning more about what's inside me as far as what faith really means to me and what I've seen real faith be. And it is magical in its own sense, but there are people on this planet that have done amazing things that defy what we consider logic. Because we consider everything like, dude, if we think about like my whole thing about like, and this is what dude, I got Linda to like freak out. And she just stopped talking to me and then wanted to go to the Bible and read. And I was like, pre-flood, think about all of the major flora and fauna, short-faced bears, saber-toothed tigers, all this shit. Plus around the world, they talked about crazy-ass other creatures like dragons, giants.
Monsters. Yep.
I was like, and she's like, yeah, the world was corrupt and the God destroyed it. And I'm like, that's pretty lame explanation. I said, how about this? Your kid or kids are destructive, evil, vile creatures. And you've tried to get a hold of them, but the more that you tried to, the further away they push. I believe it like super religious parents who have all their kids leave a religion, like your family, a lot of families around here, mass exodus of younger kids that have left because of the parents who push this very oppressive.
It's not even the parents. It's the whole community. It wasn't even just the parents because the problem was it was everyone around.
But no, I get that. But the thing is that if you truly love your kids, you're not going to allow that to happen. And I'm not saying nobody loves their kids, but they are so indoctrinated that they believe what they're doing is love, and it's not. It's oppressive. It's evil. I believe it's evil because you're making another human being feel bad about themselves because they didn't do a thing right that's theoretical. Like that's even the worst part.
It's right for you. And so we're placing this weight of judgment of like, hey, you are wrong. You did something wrong. Well, why? Because I determined it was wrong. I determined you did something wrong. So now you need to feel guilty because.
And that's where that community comes from because it's worse. Because now everybody in that community goes, yeah, you're doing the right thing. And you
as a parent, you're doing right. That's what you should do. You should bring them back to the light.
And here's the thing, dude. That's why I think like my sister, her family, like all these people are leaving faith. And not faith, a church. Faith is different. They're leaving the church or their churches. And the reason why is that it's a biological response. It's almost innate in us. When you are telling us something is true, but we obviously have questions, and you say, don't ask questions, that's the first scary thing.
Or the questions you ask give you answers that you're like, this actually didn't answer this question. If
Yeah.
you pull that too far, it might disconnect you.
No, I just pulled it up. I mean, I can hear.
Okay.
I'm like yanking. So no, exactly. And to kind of finish this up, and then we'll go into our review. And
I just figured this is a sesh.
Well, no. I mean, I really appreciate I appreciate one of the things, and this may sound weird, but I really appreciate your discernment of religion because of what you have felt in your life. And I feel lucky that I didn't have religious parents, because if I did, I might have been one of those fucking weirdos. And when I say a weirdo, because when you look at them, they're fucking
I could
scary.
see that. I could see that.
Yeah.
You get very intertwined into things you get very into.
Yeah.
And if it was religion when you were young, because your family was,
I would have
see you being
I would have been like McLean.
one of the yes.
I would have been like McLean for sure. And but the thing is that I'm so glad that I didn't get that, because, and I'm not saying anything bad about anybody's parents, including yours, but when I hear back to that, when I hear Auschwitz, I hear no childhood, I hear control.
But most of them are controlling, because it's you need to do this. It's your wife's struggle. Hey, I've really wanted my kids to go to church. How come we can't make them? And you're like, oh, honey, you have to give them, this crazy thing they teach about all the time. Free agency. But you should have the decision sometimes to not choose to go to church. That should be okay.
And that's the thing. It's hard for them to awaken. But when you point it out, and that's why I truly do believe that biblical canon is just, these are conversations of spiritual strife. That's it. They're not the way. The teaching of the way was how Christ acted, and Christ didn't have a church. He didn't have a process. He didn't have special seances. He didn't
have a special handshake to be his friend.
Nope, none of that. And that's the thing. Like I laugh because they go, well, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you take this like in a modern era or during any era, some guy says that I speak to God, and then he gets instructions for certain things. And then he's like, okay, I did all that. Now what? And then just silence and just saying, well, I gave you a very clear instruction. Just be good. Just follow these. Okay, so you want me to build a structure around it. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I already gave it to you. And that's the thing, that when all of these religions that follow Christ or say they follow Christ, they encapsulate not what his works were, but just the words and the meanings. They are confused by his parables, and he spoke in parables to confuse them on purpose, because he wanted you to dig past the meaning and go, and what is this? Like, he legit was the riddler. Like, he's like, riddle me this.
So, as you've kind of come to a keen observation of like members that you sit around and that, and going, oh, like this person is incredibly pious. This person, like, they're only here because they're checking their box. They're doing this. I think maybe why there has been such a mass exodus, probably of every religion, is because people in my generation, they're okay having faith. They're okay having this, but when they look at what is this business is built around, it's not faith. The people you see there aren't faith. Most of them are checking their boxes. So you come and you sit in there and you go, this thing that I thought, I didn't know because I didn't really look at it. I didn't analyze it, pre-COVID or whatever. So many people didn't actually look at their faith. It was just a religion. I am religious. I go to church. I do this. Once they did, and, they started looking at that, I think so many people started trying to find faith. And what they found was their faith, that faith wasn't there. Faith was not in this business. It wasn't in this checking the boxes. It wasn't in going to this building with a whole bunch of other people checking their boxes. There was not faith there.
Yeah,
and that's why they left, because you don't find it there. And if you find that there's no faith there, there's no community. It's just people are there for fear. They're there for guilt. They're there to check a box.
Or they're there because it's
not because they truly have that faith because they don't even know. They don't know the words. They read the words, but they don't follow them.
Yeah.
So they have no fucking clue. And the people finally awaken to that and go, there's no faith here. This is not God. God is not surrounded by this. God is surrounded by love, by this. And that's what they're finding is not there. And they're going, where can I find this? It's not here. So where can I, instead of going, I can bring it to these people who are dumb and blind and like asleep, I can wake them up. No. They want to find it. They want to go, where does it exist? Because it's not here. I didn't find it here. I'm finding it in these people who are also awakening and they're finding a faith. But where is that? Where do I find this community, this that exists already?
Yeah.
Because they're wanting to go, well, I had this community that I was told was this, until I realize we're checking boxes. People are reading words, but no one's following and doing. No one lives Jesus. No one is and embodies Jesus in this community. Yeah, maybe I get one or two, but those are the people I'm friends with, and they're the ones having the same questions as I am.
Oh, yeah.
And so then they leave going, well, why are we here? Well, we're here for community. Well, our community, we're realizing, is this few groups of people that we're having these conversations with.
Dude.
That we're having true faith, that we're finding connection deeper than just, hey, why aren't you at church?
Well, and the
I
thing...
think that's what sucks, but that's why they, in every religion, is leaving, because they're realizing God isn't here. God is in not this
It's everything.
checking lists, checking boxes, these people who are reading words and not following it. God is in all these other, like the people who are asleep and living life on just this monotonous schedule of like, this is what I do. I'm checking my boxes. They're not awake. They're not ones you really get real connection with.
Truly. And I kind of take it back to consumerism because, you know, you look at entrepreneurship and employees, right? I really simplify, like I like some of Robert Kiyosaki's ideas, but you know, the myth of having the entrepreneur and the employee, and where I separate that is then an entrepreneur is going to go out and risk regardless. They have what truly could be called faith. They have faith. Yeah. They're going to do it and they have
their
hope.
Dream, their idea,
right.
Whatever it is.
And they hope that they're going to make it.
And everything goes into that, their blood, their sweat,
and
their
it's hard.
tear. Oh yeah, God, it is.
Now you take that, right? Doing an entrepreneurship, a lot of people say it's not for everyone. And then you get the other side, which is you're an employee. You do as you're told, you show up when you show up. You will be rewarded every week or every other week. And if you ever want to take a break, just let us know. We just need to know beforehand. How does that not sound like organized religion?
Yeah.
Right? It's or
bad parenting.
Well, you have to take it in this way.
Things.
Most people, I would say the majority of people do not want to take the hard route.
No, because we're not raised, I think, to do that. We're not raised with the confidence, the like.
But most haven't.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, they're not raised, so we're not raised, so we can't raise someone else that way. Like, it's kind of a passed down thing of, well, what was their life like? Did they learn or succeed in these things? Did they pass down knowledge and skills that was like, hey, as a child, this will drastically impact the quality of life that you will have 30 years, 40, 50 years down the road. Well, you're 3.
Well, and the really funny thing too, man, like I was listening to the New Testament, finishing up John, and there's this talk with the Samaritan. And what's really cool in there is that during that time, with all these people going around, they were taught these old ways of Moses, right? They followed the Mosaic law. And it was pretty harsh.
It was
extremely harsh.
It was like an eye for an eye. Very.
Which still stands. And then when Christ came, all he did was just saying, "Hey, look, if we want to go and we can completely go hypothetical because we weren't there. All right, so everything's working out. Got this world going. People are awesome. Oop, 2 of them killed each other. Okay, whoa. All right, guys, we need to chill out. And you get out of here, angry parent." Right? It's a great way of looking at it. Angry parent. Cain, you're out of here. The fuck you're doing? You are out of our family. So Cain leaves, and what does he do? He's resentful. He's angry. He's hurt. So he's everything against them. And what do parents today deal with any faith and their kids leave? You know, the LDS church, some of them will disown them. Some of them won't speak to him anymore. Some of them will speak to him, but in a way of looking down to him.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I definitely get talked down upon because of that. And there's been many a moment where my dad's told me I'm not Mormon because it's too high of a standard for me to live. Yeah, I know.
No, but it's just so funny because that's the best time to be able to quote John or Matthew, because then it's just like, oh, really?
No,
But,
I give him a real slap in the face with reality of that moment of like, actually, this is not why. This is why. Let me clarify this for you.
I'll give you some Book of Mormon scriptures that will actually go against that. And it's great. And when I throw that in other LDS people's face, I'm like, now you can't deny it because it's the book that you say is above all.
Yeah.
But it was never said it was above all. It never was said that way. The people began to put it on a pedestal. It has become their golden calf.
It is.
It's fucking weird, dude.
That's what it sucks, but I realize just the more you step away from like religion and that, the more that you realize a lot of religions have many golden calves. Many
100%
people or idols of Joseph Smith, worshiping and making him almost a god.
Which he never
deity.
asked
And
for.
I'm like, but this isn't, but it's created. It's man has created this deity in this thing. And it's like, save for Jesus Christ himself, Joseph Smith has done more for the salvation of man than anyone else. What?
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Eat my balls.
Yeah,
What?
no.
Get
Like,
out of here.
That's the funniest thing. This isn't the Church of Joseph Smith. This is the Church of Jesus Christ. That's what they state, right? And
According to the name.
according to the name. But I think it again,
it's reading the words versus following the teachings and the words.
it's
And
exactly
there's
that.
a big difference.
Well, and I believe that we are religious people today are most of them. I would say, if not the 98% of religious people today, except no, wait a minute. I'm going to say Christians. I'm going to go with Christians. I'm not going to go with Muslims because those guys are devout and they're scary sometimes. But
do you think it's the same thing? Do you think it's because they kind of grew up in that whole society, kind of similar to us?
no,
I mean, I don't know because I've not grown up out there or...
No. I mean, talking to my brother as far as those people, dude, I don't know one Christian that will willingly die for their faith. I would say
there might be.
Very
personally,
rare.
I don't know them, but
I've never, like, there are a few
people probably will claim that. They'll be like, oh, I'd die for my faith, but put a gun to their head at the end of the day.
They would say, no, I don't.
Yeah.
And the thing is that even within the Bible, God says that to, I think it's Peter, he's like, you'll deny me thrice.
Faith. Yep.
You'll deny me thrice before the crow crows twice. And so he's just like, no, I would never do that. And that's another thing to say. It's like, it's okay. Like, you're trying to save yourself. Like, you don't need to die because of that. But at the same time, he said that, and then all of them were horribly executed throughout many years after. and that's the cool thing is that what's cool about that is that he told them, hey, you don't have to. And they said, no, I will. And that's not because they were like, I need to show you how valid I am or how pure I am or how worthy I am, but is that I believe you so much that I'm willing to follow you the same way. And that's okay. Those you get from extreme military leaders. There's Marine Corps, sergeants right now that have been platoons over in Iraq, and people will follow that guy like Jesus Christ. And the reason why, because he has saved them, he has helped them overcome obstacles, and they continue to live underneath his guidance. Not very much different. And so, but the thing that gets confused is that people get caught up in this. Again, there's systems. We have to follow a system. I won't know what the end is if I don't know the steps to get there. And then when you go to the teachings of that,
because there has to be a step. That's the problem.
There's no steps.
Feel like there has to be a step. I have to do something in order to gain, equal, earn, qualify, achieve.
Right.
But yet, if truly, like, and this is the weird, like, it's that Ellen Watts story, or, talking about
I love Ellen Watts.
If you are God, or like everything you are, the source, that you basically would dream every single thing. You would live a life that was like entire pleasure for like millions of lifetimes. You would finally go through every single lifetime and you get bored of it and go, I'm going to choose to live a life where I don't know what happens. I'm going to do this. And as God or whatever, you would wake up and you would be in this exact moment
now.
right here. And it's like, so
I love that. I love that science.
So, but in that moment, like, so if you were God or could be God, you are God. that already exists. So the same concept of like religions of like, well, you can earn godhood. Well, your other scriptures claim that God always was and always will be. So either you always were or you never were.
Well, and here's the funny thing about that. And this is where I go a full stop on it. Nobody knows what comes next.
No.
Nobody comes next. You can hypothesize, theorize. You can feel something deeply within your bones that you know what comes next. But
you can try DMT and try and experience the same thing that happens when you die and see what happens next. But truly, at the end of the day, we don't know if that's the end, thing of what happens, or if past that is also another.
No, I mean, like DMT, any kind of psychedelic, like I honestly believe that they help you to push past this realm of what is perceived reality. And it is, to me, I love the theory of multidimensional. The multiverse is a strong theory that they're trying to prove. I mean, it is
a very interesting theory to think about. Because like every idea or theory or whatever exists simultaneously, and right now the moment that we're perceiving is just this perception of the moment of this multiverse. Like there are a million other simultaneously perceptions of like, in this moment we're actually getting in a fight. There's a moment in this section where you're stabbing me. There's a weird moment where we're having, it's the rule 34 or 42 or whatever it is, I think of that with the multiverse. Like, there's a million different circumstances in this moment happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
And this is just that one that we're in this very perception of viewing at this moment, but that could change or direct or like, depending on what the viewing of that
and that's
becomes.
That's the beauty of it. Like, we can hypothesize because we do not know.
No idea.
And that's one of the things, like whenever I talk to very, very hyper-religious Christians, any kind of Christian, when I talk to them, their belief in heaven is vastly different from the next. But the thing that's really funny is they talk as if they were there, right?
They know so well, like every spot on the back of their hand.
Dude,
like, I've been there.
Exactly.
This moment, then when I was there, I was in this room and like God came in and he was like, bro, do you see this painting over here? Michelangelo, motherfucker, Michelangelo. And you were just like, I was so in awe, and the color, like, no, you weren't there. You don't know what happens. You're all just hypothesizing, going, I hope this is what happens, and claiming, I know. And my dad does it all the time. I'm like, Dad, I think it's great that you believe something, but you can't tell me that you know something when it's based off of feeling.
It's not even, no, I mean, you can.
It can't be known. You can go, for you, this might feel like that's true. But again, it's based off of a feeling. There is no knowledge of 100% that you can share with me that this is a shared thing.
I will challenge that in a sense of that perceived knowledge, and then above that one is faith. And that is the unknown, but I will do it anyways.
But that's not knowledge.
No, it's not knowledge, it's faith. And faith is different than feeling, because a feeling I can adjust. But if I have faith, I'm going to go forward and do without, like...
But there's no knowledge. So you can't tell me, for him, where he's saying, I know.
Oh, no, I know. I'm trying to put it in a
sense of knowing here.
I'm trying to put it in a context of the logic is flawed. And the reason why, let's go to D-Day. Normandy.
Okay.
You got these soldiers that are getting off on amphibious crafts, and they tell them that a high percentage of you will die.
Oh, yeah.
But they charge anyways. Not because they're terrified. Many of the ones who made it up there had faith that they were going to get up to the top. Like, they just knew they were. It's like there was a soldier, Private Dobbs. You ever seen the movie
Saving Private Ryan?
No. It's a different one. It was about this. He's a real guy. Saving Private Ryan's all fiction, but there was a real guy, and he joined the army, but he was a pacifist. And he says, I will not kill another man.
You told me about that one.
Right.
Yeah.
And he saved 75 guys, but he did it with his faith. And it was cool because what he would say every single time, he's over until...
But there's no knowing. It's just...
He did it anyways.
Yes. But it's when people go, I know. And I'm like, well...
That's a bold claim.
Yes. And that's I know. And I'm like, well, no, you don't. You base your faith on a feeling, and you go, this felt right, and I believe this is true, and that's wonderful for you. I think that's wonderful. But to claim that there's a knowledge behind it and that you can share that knowledge is false. And so you do claim that this is true, or I know this, You can't. And I love that you believe it. I love it, and I hope for you.
Yeah, believe.
But
That's a good word.
But that is all it can be. Anything past that, you can't know. There's no knowledge.
no truth.
No, you can't have that. So anyone who goes, I know this, I look at it and go, well, you're full of shit. I instantly can't trust anything you say because you know things that can't be known.
Well,
you know things that can't be known.
It's really funny because it's that idea. Like one of my favorite people to go, and it's not favorite people like I think they're a great person. It's just a great example that I like to go to because they contradict themselves consistently under the logic fallacy, and that's Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I can see that.
Neil deGrasse Tyson will be like, this is so, and then they launch James Webb. And then I saw this really cool thing about James Webb. It's really freaking them out because of what they're finding. And they're like, we find galaxies going in a different direction, counterclockwise.
There's a lady, Emily sends me her videos
I've seen her
all the time. And she posts, there was this one.
Yeah, she's got brown hair and long. Yeah.
She's a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
But I love her stuff. And she did one recently. And it was like, oh, our universe is in a black hole.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And then there was another one, and it showed like the way the light from a universe like goes through and like bends. And I was like, whoa, the way that it travels to us. And I'm like, there's so much unknown that even the stuff that I go, hey, I know this is only what I think I know based on the information that I have found at the time. That doesn't mean that I've read everything of information.
And nor do you.
No. And so it's like, this is what my mind has found at this time. And I'm always willing to go, well, if something new comes out, I'm going to go, well, I can change my mind.
The universe is one example of what reality is not. And reality is the construct that man has created to help him not lose his mind. Because he's thinking if this shifts, and that's the funny thing, like why this is the conundrum I have with science. Because a lot of science will say, well, this is true. And again, it's going on that Christians...
Until it's disproven.
Yeah.
And something else comes in and, well, now this is true. But I think the problem, and this is...
Yeah.
It's all based on hypothesis. And they test 100%. Something, and then they go, well, this is true because this happened. Well, maybe that's not true. Maybe that's the outcome that happened, but maybe something else along the way is the causation, is, something that happened in there. But it's only our observation at the time. Well, and that's all we can go off of is our observations of like, well, A plus B equals C. Well, no, we found out A plus B equals like MC squared minus 2 plus 4 plus like your mom's, like you have no idea because the equation continuously changes as we observe something new that we had no fucking clue.
When you said welcome. Your mom... Hold on.
I didn't finish where it was.
No. This is perfect. Because last night I found a meme. I haven't sent it to you. And it has this music in the background. It's funny as shit, but it's a deli. And this guy's like slicing up and it goes, they touch so much meat in one day at a deli. And then all of a sudden it goes, wham, just like your mom. Like, I was laughing. I was like, my God. I showed Steph that. And she goes, hilarious. She started laughing. I'm like, I got to send this to Brandon. Yeah. And that whole story about like, I don't like to do your mom jokes because your mom, but I'm like, no, I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to say them anyways because we have a good time laughing. But yeah, dude, I honestly, it's this crazy thing where
science is flawed too.
No, but that's the thing is that the idea of truth or true faith or following Christ in the exact way, and where this kind of stem from, right? The way I look at it is that, and this has just been my perception as of late by going through this, is that there was nobody telling you to do something this way. The only thing they were doing is like, hey, there wasn't a correction. It was just like, this is going to lead you down a path where you are not going to be what you want to be. And when people do that in today's world, whether it's an ideology, whether it's a religion, whether it's a political faction that all of a sudden you identify with, you start to segregate yourself from being a human to now being a commodity.
Instead of a we and a...
And the thing, and to answer your question on why I like to stay within, I love this. I really do. They have been wonderful to me. They have helped me. They have helped me The examples that they've been help me to be able to get to where I am spiritually now. And it's not through their teachings, it's through their examples of not necessarily what not to be, but I wanted to question, why are they that way? Instead of just being upset because it's doing exactly what they say not to do, but they do all the time, which is judge others. And so through that process, what I've learned, dude, is getting closer to this. I understand things through a lens that I don't need to know, like science. I find science fascinating, and I think it's so cool. All that shit that they're pulling up underneath the Temple of Giza and everybody trying to say this guy, that's wrong. And I'm like, yeah.
I just think it's all interesting.
I think it's interesting, but at the same time, you don't know until you know. And when people say that you can't find out, makes me want to do more. And Egypt has kept people from doing anything there.
But that would be amazing. Yeah, I would love to actually learn what is there.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
It's all hypothesis or like claims and stuff. Hey, we did a scan and someone's going, that scan can't reach. And someone's like, yes, it can. And, this is what it looks like. And
which one was it?
So there's all that. And you're like, well, I don't know. Maybe none of it is true. Maybe they can't actually see anything down there. But again, like we talked about last week, what potentially is down there? And it's...
Well, and we don't know. But Mr. Mythos. Okay. I've introduced you to him.
Yep.
He did one Inner Earth Conspiracy Theories number 9. Did you watch number 9? I
watched one of them recently.
About them finding that subterranean area, and they went down there because the Native Americans would talk about it. So the story started with this one guy. He's a Native American prospector, and he accidentally stumbled on this cave system.
Okay.
And what ended up happening is he got lost in it and was gone for 3 years. Everybody said he was dead, and then he came back after 3 years.
It's a long time to be in caves.
And what his story was told to his children, because they thought he was dead, none of them believed him. The only one who would listen to him was his grandson, and he would listen to his stories all the time. And he told him that he had found a ancient complex of marble and light and all sorts of stuff down below in the subterranean area. And as he went down there, he actually met some personages and got lost and didn't know what was going on. They spoke a language he didn't understand. He kind of got to learn it and know it. And when he did, he begged them to let him go out. And they were like, no, we don't go up to the top. We only go up there when we really, really need to. But we usually don't. We have everything we could ever need down here. And some of it people go like, oh yeah, that's bullshit. Well, there's a cave in China or Vietnam that goes for 6 miles deep, has its own forests, cloud systems, its own weather. It has running fresh water constantly.
That we can find?
Oh, they've gone through and documented all of it. I'll send you a video.
Yeah, I'd love to see.
Crazy. They have no idea the sense of time, but it's ancient. And the things that they find down there, they're just like, oh my gosh. To believe that there couldn't be a subterranean when we go to Turkey, when we go to all these other places, and they've found subterranean, like, why not? Why not believe that?
Well, even Grandpa had gone to there's a massive temple underground carved in salt.
Yeah.
Back in, I think, Europe or Asia or something, and he's been in there. And like
crazy,
these things exist.
Well, and this is the thing, dude. Like when people that's why when I go like pre-flood, where I believe it was real, absolutely. But and the reason why I think about that is that if it was wiped out, there's a reason why we don't know. There's just a reason why you don't know.
Even if it wasn't religious or whatever, but say that it was a
time wipes things away,
like we've seen, floods or ice ages and stuff. That even if that was true, and that, we've seen it. We see seashells and the water levels that have existed crazy high going, okay, if that was the case, anything that was there would be washed away or buried through sand and stuff over time. The things that were heavy enough would be buried, and the things that weren't would just be swept away and destroyed. So even you think about, okay, well, could there be carvings on stone if the stone wasn't eroded, or, that could exist. Really large things like the pyramids or the Sphinx, those could exist.
Oh, yeah.
And really large megaliths and stuff. But outside of that, almost everything would be destroyed. Records, technology, humanity, all of that stuff. Art, whatever creations we had done would just all be destroyed.
Well, and you think back to, man, like Tenochtitlan, and then you get even older, going Sacsayhuaman,
And then your mom.
Machu Picchu, and your mom, and now you go to Egypt, and then you go to
Have you gone to any ruins yet in another country?
just Mexico.
Okay. Did you go to Machu Picchu or Mazatlan, or do you know where you went?
No, I went to Tenochtitlan, where the 3 Great Pyramids are. So they're the sun and the moon temple,
I don't
what the
know if I've
Aztecs
gone
call.
to that one.
So I was, at the time, I was one of the last ones that actually got to climb to the top. Pete went on one of them, but they never got to go on the big one. I went to the big one on top. But the cool thing was when I was there at that time, and I remember very distinctly as a kid, because they had areas that were fenced off and guarded.
Yeah. That you can't go in.
You
Yeah.
can't see anything. But the local people know more about the history of it than anybody else because it just gets passed down. And on top of these pyramids, there were black type of substance they think was like plastic type stuff. And it was all taken off and it's underground. And there was places at the time where you could not get access to. It was like old gated off places that were locked.
Yeah.
And they had guards around there.
Yeah,
Like
they build it into the stone. You can't go in this section. And yeah,
can't
it's
go there.
crazy. I've seen that in almost every place like that I've gone to. Any old ancient place is crazy like that.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like that
climbed
one story.
two different pyramids somewhere in Mexico, but it's been a long time, and we went like 6 different times to Mexico.
I wish we could flatten that Catholic church on top of Cholula, Mount Cholula, because there is one of the largest temples underneath that. If you look up, what is it? It's one of the Russia countries or one of the break-off countries, but it may be Yugoslavia or something like that.
Czechoslovakia.
Or Czechoslovakia. You heard about those pyramids out there? So here's what's happened. This one guy had seen this mountain, but it looked too perfect. So he's like, what is this? And so he actually started to go down towards the base and started to dig, and he found rocks, blocks, stones, pathways, and stuff like that. And he was like, holy shit, it's way bigger than the Giza one.
Whoa.
Way bigger. But here's the crazy thing. They have pyramids all over this planet.
Oh, yeah. Mexico, Russia, China.
Africa,
yeah, they're like
Australia.
all over.
They're everywhere, dude. And that is the thing. Like when I was telling you about that subterranean thing, that's under Death Valley.
Really?
Yeah. And then, but the crazy thing was, it sounds like a fantasy thing. There was a guy in the early 1900s that accidentally found the same place. He used dynamite and shovels with this other doctor because he was like fascinated with it, and he'd heard these stories, and he's like, I'm going to try and find it. He gets access to one of the places. He brings another scientist with him down there, and they're freaked out. They spend weeks, months exploring. They said that they estimated it was hundreds of miles into the earth, all over. It went underneath from Death Valley all the way over by the Colorado, underneath the Colorado River, like all these things, right? And they got out, and they were like, well, and their goal was to make money. They're like, well, I want to make money from this. Like, and he tried to get other scientists to do it, and they didn't believe his stories. Well, he figured out the only other way, because he tried to get science to go with it. Well,
So to go with religion?
nope. He went with investors. So we got private investors saying, hey, we do exploration and we do caves and stuff like that. If we find it, we're going to make money from it by being able to show it to the world, because we can charge. So this is what we're going to do. And they're like, cool. They took investors out to this place. They went down. These investors saw things. They brought back gold and things like that to show them that we have these things. And the investors were super excited. And they said, we need more evidence to bring back here. They found all of these like 100 plus giants, 9 feet or taller mummies everywhere in this hallway. That's what he said, right? I don't know any of it, but it sounds really cool, right?
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that he went back to go get some evidence and then never came back. Days later, they found his car near the Death Valley. The radiator had blown, but he just was never found. And so he was the one that knew the location, like, because it was his plot and claim of land. he had bought to do that because he surveyed it and listened to these things. And he's like,
Well, it
okay.
shouldn't be hard to find if it's truly, because he would own it and it would be held under his name.
Exactly. And what happened was there was a flash flood in the area and changed the entire landscape. So now all of the markers to tell him where the cave was, can't find it. And the investors who saw it were all trying to do it too because they were there and they were like, we got to find this. Never could find it again. It had completely changed the landscape. There was a thing that they talked about. These things can happen out in the middle of the desert. It looks like a tornado, but it's hard rain and like hail and stuff that is concentrated into one area due to a mix of warm and cold air hitting each other right away. Over water, that would cause a hurricane. Over a desert, it would cause something else. And so it caused this crazy torrential downpour in one area. Like what happened when Grandpa's basement got flooded?
Yeah.
Like when I told you me and Curtis were there, we were driving home in the streets on my Yukon. It went up to the middle of my engine.
Yeah, that's insane.
I got water in my intake.
So much water that time.
But we were on a hill.
Yep.
Like that shouldn't have happened.
Well, the side of the hill sloughed off on both sides.
I know. Like it destroyed those businesses down there, right? But that's what I thought of when the guy talked about it. I'm like, yeah, that and this it changed the entire, and they said this is common that happens out there. And the reason why they call it Death Valley is that there's been massive extinction events that have happened in that area multiple times over history. And they've seen it completely change the whole landscape. Like it'll go through weird floods all of a sudden.
I just thought it was because it's always so fucking hot.
No. Like it was one of the places where they found a lot of gold, but it was really hard to mine it because it was so fucking hot and so dead. But yet underground, there's geothermal pools. There's freshwater pools, but it does go down deep. That's why it's just like all these subterranean things. And it kind of goes back to this whole thing of like religions and stuff. Religions have kind of taken away what we knew as our reality, and then a reality was conformed around it to make sure that we just follow this way.
Well, isn't it interesting? There used to be such a bigger belief in like magic and
I believe that's
all
true.
Of these different creatures and things that existed, and then now we like
that's not
it all
real.
seems fantasy. That's what it's written as. This is fantasy. Well, but all the religious texts talk about like fantasy type of shit.
No, I don't believe it's fantasy. I believe it's what
like,
they observe.
Do they actually believe? Like, do you believe that? Because if so, it's the same as like the fantasy books. You know?
Well, the thing too, dude, like I think is funny because though people will immediately go like evolution, like looking at the planet and the way it's gone, like there's just so many vast amounts of animals and creatures and plants that there is no way to know if one dies off and another one takes its place. It's just so many. Like that cave I was telling you about, they have found all sorts of new species of insects, animals, plants never seen before.
The one in China?
Yeah. And this cave, dude, it's so in the middle of it, you can put a skyscraper in the middle of it.
That sounds insane.
And it's so beautiful, green, untouched, pure.
I mean, when we were in China, it was some of the most gorgeous mountains and like places I'd been.
They have crazy pyramids there too.
Yeah, but aren't they covered?
Some of them were covered with dirt and trees.
Stuff.
But they talk about during World War II, some of these bombers that would go over there when they were protecting China from Japan.
Yeah.
When they were going over, there were reports of bright white pyramids out in the middle of the landscape. And it just goes to show, like, that's why I talk about the pre-flood is that, believe it, there was a completely different human during that time in a different world where we would consider them monsters, but that was just what they had. Like,
it's very possible. I mean, we look at dinosaurs and mammoths and, like you said, short-faced bears, all these other things, and going, yeah, couldn't have had like a giant or some half-man, half-mutant thing, like, you know. Bigfoot,
like, you know, people, like, I don't know if you've seen these videos, I'll have to show you, but these people claiming to see giants on the tops of mountains.
No.
One of them in Mexico, dude, it's pretty compelling where they judged it by 20 feet tall because it was way up on the mountainside and they could clearly see it moving.
That's
like
crazy.
arms swinging and stuff.
That's insane.
And the guy was like, yeah. And then they talked to the locals, and the locals are like, good, we see this all the time. Like, we don't go up there. We're terrified of that. We're not going up there. And it's the same thing. Like if there was like a dragon that hung out in a cave.
Oh yeah.
But it was only happy if you gave it gold. Give that motherfucker gold. And then let us take pictures.
Right.
I'm going to hang out with it like some plexiglass. Like
but
that.
First, let me take a selfie.
Yeah. Like the dragon comes over and just like poses with you.
$20 for a selfie with a dragon.
Dude, this is totally random. Have you ever, I've seen these funny ass, like, I love animal movies videos because they're so cute and funny. But like one of them where they'll be like, smile. And then they get the camera out and the dog goes. It's just like, you know, dude, it's like your dog. Like the more you talk to your dog and you talk to it like a human, like it really understands you.
Yeah.
Very clear. Like Scout last night, dude, my dog loves apples. That's her favorite treat.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And Steph's my favorite treat too. And last night I cut him up. It's like 2 a.m. I cut him up. I go in my room, real quiet. We're eating. And then all of a sudden you hear, so I open the door and it's my dog. And I'm like, oh, did you need to go outside? And when you say that, she walks and goes to the door. She just sits there and stares at me. And I said, do you need to go outside? And then it looks at my wife and she's just staring at Steph. And I told her and I said, she probably smells the apples. And she's like, no. And I was like, I said, what did you want? Did you want a treat? And she goes right past me and is like, oh, her butt's going nuts. And she's looking at my wife and Steph gives her some apples. And that's all she wanted. Yeah. It was so funny, dude. But it's like that, dude. It's just so cool. Like I think of creatures, I think of people, and I think we're all like that. All of us just want to be treated really, really well because it makes us feel safe and we want to do the same for others. Like honestly, it's not that it makes sense to be angry or evil or mean. That's all human. That's just human. Even and I hate you always keep going back, but even Christ said that. He's like, the devil can't make you do anything. That's in you.
Yeah.
The evil, the hate, that's part of your choice.
That's why I thought it was so funny. After I left religion at all, and one of my friends, she was like, you should watch the show Lucifer. and I started it, and instantly that concept or idea of Satan or this son of God who was cast down and now makes you do bad things. It was like so ludicrous to me that it became hilarious. And like the concept of like Satan or Lucifer being this bad person, it became so funny. And then all of my friends started calling me Satan, and my girlfriend called me Satan because it was stupid. The idea of Satan just became stupid. Like it was this scapegoat we made of like, he made me do it.
Oh, no. Well, that's a scapegoat that many of them do. But I mean, I truly believe in evil and evil entities and things like that. But
not as in this person made me do it.
No one can make you do anything.
No, that's just stupid. That was your choice, your decision. You just chose to make that decision. And now you're not having the accountability to go, hey, I made this choice.
Majority of it's from government funding. And what I mean by that is FAFSA and student loans. These all go through the government. Yeah. And so when people go into there, you're just going into a government organization. That's all you're doing. The building may say your university, but in the asterisks, it says owned by the U.S. government. And so you aren't really getting a very well-rounded education. And because of that, just like you stated, they will penalize it because they don't make money off of individuals coming. Because if you go back to the 70s and even the 80s, school didn't cost anywhere near what it costs today.
Oh, no.
And you could get a doctorate for the equivalent of getting a bachelor's today.
You know, it was interesting. Apparently the cost of a home during the Great Depression was
so nuts.
It was like, gosh, what was it? 16% of your income. But now it's 32% of your income. So in this moment, the percentage of the American or the person's income, it's almost double the cost to buy a home now than it was during the Great Depression.
Well, dude, you think back to it. So do you know where income tax came from?
I wonder if that was in all the law stuff that I read through.
So the income tax came in as a momentary ask of the American people during World War I.
Yeah.
And then they stopped it. And it was a very small percentage.
Yeah, because it was only supposed to help fund the war and do other things.
And then it stopped. And then World War II came and they implemented it. And then the government just said, well, let's just let it keep going. And people were fine. Do you know the highest it got around that time was like 3 to like 5% was the max? Yeah. And now how much we're charged is almost 30%.
Well, on the front end.
On the front end.
But then, at least in the state
sales
we live
tax,
in, you pay
gas
sales tax and food. So in Utah, and this is what I hate, is many other states, you don't have an income tax, or you don't have a sales tax, or you don't have a sales tax on like food. Utah, you pay for your food, you get taxed on that. You can't live, you're taxed on your sales tax, your income tax, everything. Plus, you know, what percentage of people here also donate another 10%. And so even then, I'm like, by the time we add our 7-8% tax, our sales tax, our income tax, we're probably close to almost 50%
100%
of tax in just what the income from Utah is.
Well, and the thing that people do, they think that the value of their homes is just going up. No. That is a clear sign of inflation. If inflation goes up, then everything goes up, not because of the perceived value, but the devaluation of the value of that dollar. And so now, like, people are like, dude, I know a guy out in Florida is trying to sell his home for 1.5, 4-bedroom, 3-bath. Are you fucking kidding me?
No idea.
And
I don't know the value of homes.
No. But that's the thing. Yeah. Like, it's all over the place, and it's the real estate agents, and real estate agents listen to it. They go, no, it's not like that. Like, the majority of real estate agents are fucks because they don't understand. There are slimy salespeople that come under the guise of helping people. They are not. Most of them don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're not a loan officer. They don't build the home. Yeah. They just show it. And by showing it, they show up and just saying, hey, what do you think? And you go, yeah, I like it. Like, cool. That'll be 10% of everything. Not anymore. I love that too. But it is just, it's so crazy, dude. All this taxation that happens went because it was
a little one at a time.
Man, the government does some gangster shit every year. They always show up going, all right, we need some taxes. And then they tax that, and they tax everything else. Like, that's some gangster shit. Like, I need a little bit more money. Well, what do you need it for? The White House needs a paint job. Yep. And
plus we need some new rims.
But you know what's funny is that what we're learning now is that it has been a funnel to be able to help politicians become wealthy millionaires.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen politicians?
And you know the ones I like there's one politician, I always hear him during like Senate committee hearings and when they're going over some type of judicial thing or some government oversight committee. And this one guy, dude, he gets the money he gets and that's all he gets. He doesn't talk to anybody outside. He's like, I'm here for my state and for my country. That's it. I'm not here to make money. He doesn't make a lot of money. And he gets, he's the one that goes over saying, if you join Senate or Congress, you shouldn't be allowed to own a part of a large company that makes money.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to do any of this.
I'm sorry, you make a good 6-figure salary. You shouldn't need that, honestly.
And what do? They make millions. They make and they go, oh,
in
no,
a short period of time.
That's insane. Yeah. Dude, even presidents weren't like that. Presidents weren't multi-million. Dude, George Bush Sr. and Jr. were millionaires because they were a part of a family of a large oil family.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whole different. Yeah.
Carter wasn't like that. Dude, Carter was like, after he left being president, he was just a philanthropist. He didn't make a lot of money. He just had a little home. Like, that's the thing it's because we're so caught up in, well, it's easier now to say I'm right. It goes back to that whole thing, right? I'm right. Just listen to me because I'm right. How? Well, I'm on TV. I wear slick looking suits.
I have a podcast.
I say big things like the government people, and that's the thing that it's so funny. Exactly, right? I have a podcast. You should listen to me. And it's just become so skewed. So I like now where it's being burnt. It's being burnt right now. And it doesn't mean that it won't be corrupt forever. It's going to be corrupt regardless. But if it could be a little less, that'd be nice.
I feel like corruption has unfortunately always existed, and I don't know if it will.
Happens in nature.
Absolute
Cancer.
Power corrupts, absolutely, though. And I don't know.
But sometimes, like cancer, you don't even know that you're doing it.
Yeah, I could see that.
right?
I think most
like overly religious people.
They feel and think that what they are doing is right and true, even in the judgment of their neighbor, their sibling,
100%.
their friend, their whatever. It's always done from the perception of, well, I'm right. This is right.
It's like the Civil War. When that happened, what would that have felt like, dude? Like, put yourself in that position and don't answer, just kind of like feel it. But say like Alec was of the North and you were of the South, not because of, political affiliations or how you feel. We're just dividing a line. You believe in one thing. Wasn't all about slavery. It was about business.
There's a lot of different things.
Yeah, it was a lot about like economics and stuff like that. The South was doing very well compared to the North on money wise, but they still held power. So when they started to fight, like, could you fight your brother? Could you kill your brother? Like, the amount of people that died in the Civil War, we have no idea what death looks like. Not in this country. You could take all of our wars that we fought in and died in since then. It still doesn't add up to how many died. And that's just U.S. people against a U.S. person. So it just goes.
That's what I think. Like, it sucks because I see so much of the disruption right now and so much of the animosity on both sides of like, it feels like there's an uprising that's coming from one side or the other. And it feels like that Civil War time of like brothers and sisters butting heads, fighting each other, going, no, fuck you. Like this is, and that's more of what it feels like, this tension that's rising and building across the country of just no longer a we, but a us and a them. And very much a my side is right and your side is wrong.
I feel that is 100% a product of the media landscape that has run rampant for too long, unfettered. And you can tell that because where people are starting to wake up on both sides saying I was lied to constantly. And now I'm not okay with it. And that's where, it's so funny to watch it. And that's just not here in the United States, dude. That's everywhere. In France, the woman who is running against the president, she's now in prison.
For?
Fraud, something. It just came out of nowhere.
I mean,
Macron is
how
known.
many political figures probably have been caught up or would be caught up in fraud or, things that they really shouldn't be. All of their dirty laundry came out.
The thing is
I don't think we'd have many politicians.
Oh, no. It had nothing to do with that. Macron wants absolute power. He doesn't want to relinquish it.
I could see
and
that.
He's had a lot of questions about how he's run France, and the U.S. has come after France quite a bit, saying, we're done paying for you. Did you hear that this new initiative about Europe? J.D. Vance, vice president, went over to Economic Forum to talk to all the nations and stuff like that. And he said, he welcomed them, he talked to them, said, great, good, we all love each other. Okay, the U.S. is sick and tired of picking up the bill defending you. You need to start defending yourselves. We're done spending our money defending your countries. So we need you to ramp up and start your spending.
I did see that. And then I saw the
they're
response from, what was it, Denmark or Sweden, whichever one that he called out, because it was done in a very assholey way.
So what?
And so the guy of Denmark or Sweden was like, oh, we are totally okay having conversations. In fact, the truce that we have or this thing that's in place actually allows for you to increase this. We just request that you ask to have the conversation.
Yeah, no.
We also request that because we're allies, you just talk to us like you would an ally.
Well,
because as far as we consider ourselves, we still consider ourselves U.S. and this an ally, so that we think just receives like some level of decent human respect.
In a way, I mean, and I think it was blanketed in that, and Denmark took it personally, but Denmark compared to the United States, Denmark is this, and the U.S. is this couch. So when they do it comparatively, the reason why they said Europe in general, not necessarily individual countries, mainly Germany, France, and the UK.
Yeah, but as the countries who are still addressed in that, it is still for them a very personal attack of like, hey, we were your allies or are, and to come in and it's like, hey, we're your friend. And you came in and your approach was like really assholey.
Well, and
like, but I thought we were friends, right?
In a way, because they're frustrated because when you take the defense spending compared to the, let me give
but
this.
Like if you and me came in and you were a dick, I was a dick.
Yeah.
And it was like, bro, why are you acting like this? I thought we were friends. Like, why are you treating me like this?
All right, take this.
That's my perception.
No, I totally get. You're going from I'm going to go from a business perspective.
So business partners.
Yeah, not even business partners. Let's take it like you've got.
Well, but they're allies. So what would you call that as far as business? How would that?
An ally. Okay, what I would consider an ally is somebody that can be able to join forces with you. And
partnership?
In an equal partnership. Equal is not even close. Because if you look at the U.S. spending as far as defense, it's not in the homeland, it's abroad. And I know because of Rome, it is a Rome thing. This is the way for them to get territories.
And we're much larger.
Right. But at the same time, now we do that to be able to go on the offensive. After World War II, the U.S. agreed to be able to help out Europe and get them rebuilt.
Oh, yeah.
And they did that. They did it with Japan. They did it with the Philippines. They did it a lot of places. The U.S. went in there to try and help them after the war. Not that they started anything. Matter of fact, they were late to the game.
Oh, yeah.
So when they came in, their defense budget was only like the income tax was only for supposed to be a momentary time. But those corrupt people in our government go, war makes us a fuck ton of money. We went from being like basic as like we were decent with everybody else, and then World War II, and then we became massively rich. I mean, more rich than any other country could ever be. And so we're like, fuck, and we got a large land space with varying degrees of differences. Oh, okay, it's fine. But I mean, I'll finish this up. But the thing is that when you see, and I appreciate what you're talking like that, but I'm thinking from a business standpoint, if my business is spending X to support your company and Y is what you're asking for, but we want you to do more, and we've asked Europe to do this as a whole body, not an individual country. And so when he came there, he addressed them all. Some of them got really upset. I totally understand that. I take your perception, because Denmark has never been somebody that has been against the U.S. However, Denmark really doesn't contribute to being able to help out with the defense of the world. So they're not truly an ally. They're being protected. If the U.S. pulled out of Germany, that would be fine, but they would also be left to Russia.
So because we are a much larger power and they're small, they're not an ally because they're protected?
Yes.
Interesting.
The reason why it's a different relationship. If you're this is just my perspective.
I know.
But an ally is but an ally is working alongside you to be able to help with the greater good.
Exactly.
But
I don't think the size of the army or donation necessarily contributes to the ally if you're having, their community is only 10 people. Well, they can't donate 100 people when they only have 10. So it doesn't matter if your community is 1 million.
And that's what
I still see that as an ally.
And that's what the U.S. is asking. But they're not asking individual allies. Europe is more of like a conglomeration.
Yeah, but these were the direct thing was more directed. And this was
so he said it directly to Denmark.
I'd have to pull up a video.
Okay, we'll go through that later on. But I'm saying the thing is...
That's just me. I don't like J.D. Vance.
Oh, I don't care. I'm just saying, what I appreciated was going over there because the U.S. government, if you take it from there, the U.S. government funds a lot of other governments.
Yes.
South Africa, for one, was being funded by the U.S. for a lot of different things. And they cut them off because they have been
cut off lots of our funding because it's not always justified or needed, and most of it is taxable funds. So
and this is where you need to start being able. And he went about it in a very rough way. I agree with you.
Yes.
Are they allies? Kind of, because here's the thing.
I would wager that putting wedges in there puts a little bit more of a. Why are we allies? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Why are we allies? That's a great way to go with that. I can
understand why Denmark would look at it and go, I thought we were allies. We even have a contract that states you can change things. We just have to have conversations. So yeah, I could see that. No,
and I think what it was is that it's a frustration with the larger European countries that have been more pushing against it. Like when certain things that have happened, a lot of it is to protect them from Russia. All of Europe could not survive if Russia decided to come and fight them. Everybody goes, oh.
Yeah, but is that a reality that we're looking at right now?
Not at the moment. And the reason why we know that, because they won't go after Russia because they're still dependent upon their fuel. 100%. They closed down their power plants. They closed down all these other things.
Russia?
No.
Who are you talking about?
Germany went all electric, wind farms, all this shit, and they weren't able to produce for their people. Same with the UK. Do you know there's parts of Europe during winter time that they told them they couldn't use their heat? That they had to go out and issue coal because they couldn't provide enough, because they were cut off. Because during the war of Ukraine, Russia's like, this is our fight.
Yeah, with Ukraine.
This is our fight, right? And they go in there and they do their thing. And he said, hey, if I'm giving you fuel, you can't get involved. And so not one of their countries got involved. But then everybody came to the U.S. going, well, what are you going to do? You've already been starting this shit for a while. You've been giving them missiles to put on their border. You go fucking help out with it. And so it's come to this, like, honestly, it's just been, it's like if your little brother Thomas, you protected him his entire life and you were just kind of done doing that. You're just like, dude, you need to be stronger. And you say, hey, I'm kind of done with protecting you all the time. I need you to start picking up your own weight and doing a little bit more to defend this. And they go, oh, we kind of like it like this. I mean, we don't spend a lot of money on defense. And that's where the bigger European countries came from. So what he did, absolutely, I agree with you. It was a dick move because, as you stated, Denmark had a contract. Not all of them do. But Denmark had a contract with them, and they should have gone individually instead of gone there. It was an emotional move.
That's what I feel like most of the ones that I see are done. Is an emotional move.
These are humans interacting with each other. There's no logic.
But we come from a very, like, this is I think in these types of situations, if you're going to be presenting publicly in such a large forum, you need to figure your shit out enough to go, hey, I know this is an emotional subject. I know I'm going to be emotional. How can I try and remove that from this?
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, it's not like a little tiny meeting with some friends. This is a worldwide thing. Yeah. So there's a certain level of class that I think should come with that level that just I have seen less and less of.
Well, and this is all I'll leave last with, and you could finish that from the thought. I think we've been too nice to each other for too fucking long. I think we've been coddling each other to believe that's because our world is falling apart.
It's true. We are way too soft with other people's beliefs that instead of going, I'm sorry, you're an asshole, you treat people like shit, and your stuff's garbage. Like, yeah, I think we should have more blatant, hard conversations. Yeah. It was with my dad. I told him the other day, like, oh, you know, because he was like, oh, if I died, I'd like to have this type of thing. And I was like, you know, if you died, I think I would be honest. I think I would just say these things because you kind of pussyfoot around it too much and don't want to talk about it. And I think at that point, I would just rather get it over with because I'm sick and tired of just pussyfooting around conversations and going, yeah, I'd rather just not have it because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
Dude,
and I'm like, fuck it. Yes. No, I don't care about your feelings because we'll either get over it or we won't.
Well, and the thing is, dude, I love that. I'm so glad that you said it like that because you know what? It's just calling it out. It's letting off that soft, fluffy layer that we keep surrounding ourselves with and just being real with it and just saying, you know what? It is what it is, but I need to figure out a way to be able to get along with you because I live here with you. And that honestly is that. And dude, you know, I'm glad we talked. This is just a good conversation, guys. We're just chatting
all
away.
Over the fucking place.
And I'm glad you guys are able to do that. I know a lot of you guys like that. Don't worry, we got guests coming real soon. We've got more guests. We got crazy guests. We got the great prophet Ruth coming soon.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that.
We had one for today, but he was late. He started trying to call in the middle of recording. I was like,
yeah, shit happens. Oh well.
Happens.
But so, no, we hear you. But we love you guys.
Tune in next week.
Take care.